Hello and welcome to Genius Indian. Friends, today we are going to discuss groundwater. Whenever there is a talk about water resources or whenever there is a talk about resource stress, especially in our country, you will listen this term. And while we all use water on a daily basis, and while we all know about water being one of the most vital resources, there are a few aspects which are generally not covered. And that's what we will be doing today. First of all, the definition. And the simplest definition is that groundwater is the water that is found below the earth's surface. It is the water that collects or flows underground in the small spaces in rocks and soil. And it is this water which is found in wells and bore wells. Groundwater is the largest liquid source of fresh water. And this, along with the soil moisture and surface waters such as lakes and rivers and snow and ice, comprises all the freshwater stock available on earth. Groundwater is extremely important for our country. This is because we are the largest users of groundwater in the whole world. Every year, our country pumps out more water from the ground than the next two countries on the list of groundwater addicts, China and the United States. In our country, groundwater withdrawals have increased more than tenfold since 1950s. From less than 20 cubic kilometers in 1950, they have gone up to almost 260 cubic kilometers as of today. And this quantity happens to be almost a quarter of all the groundwater extracted globally. Up to 80% of our population depends on groundwater for both drinking as well as for irrigation. And within this band, 70% of all the Indian agriculture farms depend on the groundwater. As you can understand, groundwater is virtually the lifeline of India. And that's why a majority of India's water problems are also those relating to the groundwater. Groundwater in India faces two major issues. The first is depletion and the second is contamination. Depletion because our wells and springs are drying up. They are drying up because we don't recharge our groundwater aquifers sufficiently. They are drying up because many state governments provide subsidized power to farmers, which tempts them to dig more bore wells. And of course, they are drying up because after the launch of Green Revolution during 1960s, the usage of groundwater has gone up manyfold. In fact, it can be said that Green Revolution in many states is dependent on groundwater. And because of the use of groundwater for irrigation, and because of the drought and wasteful pumping, the Indian aquifers are getting drier. The very aquifers which feed more than 30 million water wells across the country. Government studies show that at least a third of India's groundwater reserves are being pumped at a much faster rate than they are being recharged. Moreover, according to a 2014 World Bank study, the aquifers are depleting in the most populated and most economically productive areas. The situation is so bad that according to a study in Andhra Pradesh, the first and second aquifer systems have already dried up. And now the locals are tapping the third aquifer system by drilling bore wells to a depth of more than 1,000 feet. How deep is this level can be seen from the fact that the tallest building in Mumbai is just 840 feet tall. This brings us to the second issue, and that is contamination, something which is also a massive problem. And it is a problem because a shocking percentage of India's water is filthy. According to an assessment by the Niti Aayog, almost 70% of all the country's fresh water, whether it is groundwater or surface water, is contaminated. In fact, India's rivers, lakes and aquifers are more polluted than the waters of any other major nation. 3/4 of India's groundwater supplies contains fluorides at levels in much higher concentration than the World Health Organization's safety limits. According to a study, aquifers in 387 geographic regions out of India's 676 geographic regions also contain hazardous concentrations of contaminants like pesticides, arsenic, chromium, lead, cadmium, and nitrates. The condition is so bad that a study found the water of Ganga river more polluted than a sewer flowing in Norway. A study by the Norwegian Institute of Water Research, which was conducted a couple of years back, found the water of the Ganga to be highly polluted with concentration of chemical oxygen demand or COD twice as high and the concentration of chrome 1,000 times higher when compared to the water flowing in an untreated public sewer in Norway. So the question arises, why the groundwater is so polluted? Well, an important reason for the pollution is the first problem, and that is depletion. When there is less water in an aquifer, the concentration of ions increases. When aquifers get recharged sufficiently, contaminants are dispersed widely and they get diluted. But because Indian aquifers are not being sufficiently recharged, the pollutants are way too concentrated. According to a Niti Aayog report, at least 600 million Indians have to cope with very high or extremely high water stress. And out of these, about 200,000 Indians die every year because of drinking, washing, and bathing in the contaminated water. The situation of groundwater was quite different a couple of centuries back. In ancient India, water conservation was done by kings, nawabs, and aristocrats. Most kings built large wells, ponds, and lakes. They generally built temples and wells close to one another, since this ensured proper maintenance of both. Most good kings built a lake or two. An emperor built many. Besides, they encouraged local nobles, grandees, and zamindars to build tanks and canals by giving them grants and revenue-free lands. In many regions, they encouraged temple managements to construct their own tanks and irrigation systems. Kings also dug wells and constructed networks of canals while performing yajna. Many princes dug tanks and reservoirs to commemorate the victory in a war. And many kingdoms put their prisoners on the job of digging wells and ponds. Kings also constructed irrigation canals, which distributed water through a complex network of tanks, reservoirs, and stone embankments. Even villagers dug tanks and water harvesting structures on their own. On auspicious days like Bhim Ekadashi, villagers pooled their labor together and collectively dug canals and tanks. So friends, this was a brief intro to the topic of groundwater situation in India. In the next episode, we will discuss yet another topic which is important for our personal and professional growth. So please don't miss it. And the best way not to miss it is to subscribe to Genius Indian channel. And the best way to spread the knowledge is to like and share the video. And the best way to improve the quality of the work is to provide your valuable feedback. And finally, the best way to end this conversation is to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching.